Good morning, everyone. I am so happy to be here. Happy Monday. We are getting through August, and where I live, it's the hottest time of year in the middle of the summer. Hope you're all doing well. I am so excited to be here. I'm Leslie Flowers, and this, as you saw, is Mind Over Matter Mondays. And we've done 1.5 years of these. The format has changed slightly for you, where now I am bringing people in who have different ways of thinking and the technology that supports being able to choose our point of view and our thoughts, which means being objective and responsive. And it means wrangling and lassoing our automatic reactions, which are typically negative and stop us. And the idea here is to have agile thinking, to select which point of view that we've mastered or certainly developing, to think and offer to others that outweighs our fears. So it takes a little practice. And I'm so excited also to have Charles Caldwell with us today. Many of you know Charles. So the purpose here is to bring in people that already know these things and have mastered them. For me, I've done a number of different technologies, and today we're looking at transformational technology. What does that mean? We're going to take a look at landmark education, which began in the 60s with Werner Erhardt. You can look him up with EST, E-S-T. And then it grew and branched off. And so Charles was on staff. So let me bring him on up so you can meet him. There he is. Hi, Charles. Good morning.
Hi, how are you doing, Leslie? Great to see you. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Absolutely honored that you're here. So Charles is in Hong Kong. So
That's right.
What you want to know is, well, it's 10:05 a.m. on the East Coast. It's 10:05 p.m. in Hong Kong.
It is.
So, and it's 7 a.m. on the West Coast. So you'll see the few 7 a.m. people come in. But Charles, during this time, I'm so excited that you're here, and I'd like to introduce you to everybody in the audience. And I know you've invited some folks, and so if there's someone here that you know, please introduce us. How do you know this person? Why do I do this? And certainly, if you go back and listen to any of these, you can scroll right through the first 20 to 30 minutes when I do this. It's because nothing makes me feel better when you tell me how I show up for you. When I tell myself, I can be a little critical. How about you, Charles? Can you be a little critical?
Absolutely. And I can have a little bit of self-doubt every afternoon when my energy drops.
Yes, that's a good point. We're learning more about energy. This is so good we're having. And Charles has a show, Eastern time, 1 a.m. Thursday mornings, but that would make it 10 p.m. Wednesday for the West Coast.
That's right, yeah.
And
time's not ideal for North America.
No, it's just not. But I still like to go. So I'm in a place.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you. I can set an alarm. So let's just say hello to the wonderful people that are here. I want you to get to know them. These are my community. These are the people that love this work. There aren't as many as you might think, but the ones that love it are here every week. We start Mondays off, fresh mindset, new inspiration. And then Fridays I do at 10 a.m. Think and Grow Rich, and the different lessons and concepts there. So you really can have a great week, enter the weekend, and you've got at least 2 shows that you know will get your mind going, right? So no matter what's going on, your context will change. Just listen here. So first of all, let's say hello to Adrienne. Do you know Adrienne, Charles? Have you met her?
I know. I recognize many of these names. Yes, I don't know whether I'm actually.
Okay, that's okay. Adrienne lives up in New England, and she's in data processing. Most of all, I know Adrienne because she's always here. And excellent. I can't tell you what it means to me to see these incredible people every week. Many of them come to both. And then I see them in different rooms as well. And then here is my wonderful friend, Christy. Christy is a customer service representative. She's in Florida. We've had some hot weather up here, Christy. And we are in the 2350 network, which is a personal development platform that began here and operates here in many respects, but meets on a different platform. And she and I love that platform, and she supports everything I do and has for a long time. She and Adrian are incredible, incredible. And here is Leanna, and Leanna Stock is here from Duluth, Minnesota. She is another person that has been here quite frequently. And if I'm not mistaken, her area of expertise is working with people that are facing diabetes. And so correct me, Leanna, if I am wrong, okay? And here's Charles slipping in here. I love that. Oh, and look, here we have Meryl. Meryl Cass is another person on LinkedIn who has a heart of gold. You want to get to know him, because if you get on his radar, he not only shows up, but he lets other people know about it. So, and he loves being here. And I am so grateful, really. I mean, this is what I do now, Charles. I rarely charge for anything. I'm getting old, so I decided, well, I better make sure it doesn't go with me when I go. So that's what I do, is I tell you everything I know. And Meryl, thank you so much for being here. It's always a delight. You're in New Jersey, gorgeous day today. And oh, look here. Now, this is a woman you really want to get to know, Sharon Rose Winfield. You'll see her on LinkedIn as Rosie Speaks. And she knows as much about this work as I do. She keeps it kind of on the QT, but you can tell by her comments that she's very well versed in transformation and mindset. Frankly, we're all a bunch of mindset geeks, right? I think, you know.
Aren't we all, though?
Yeah, yeah. Well, who is this gentleman? Tell us about who this is.
Well, this is the man that did more than 900 LinkedIn Lives in a row.
That's right. That's right. And I did
40. We always should shoot for.
Yeah, yeah. Don, thank you, Donald, for being here. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, thank you, thank you. I did 40 shows with Donald when I first came back after COVID, and I had done lives, but I needed somebody to mentor me and to introduce me to people and kind of to begin to develop a following. And it started with Don. And he was doing them 7 days a week for, I think, a year and a half, if not 2 years. I'm so glad to see he's backed off. Now, look, Donald's show is always fabulous. It's 11 a.m. Eastern every Thursday. And Charles is on there pretty much every week, aren't you?
Lately, yes, I have been.
I love that. Thank you so much. Hello, NK. So glad to see you here. Jennifer, a new friend. Do you know this person? Is this a friend of yours?
Jennifer
Rantham.
Rantham. Again, a familiar name, but I'm not sure. Forgive me.
Well, don't worry about it. You're a new friend, Jennifer. We're so glad you're here. Please connect with
Welcome, Jennifer.
Yes. So get to know each other, follow each other, right? You don't have to get in deep, but you'll notice, you'll start seeing the same people in similar kinds of lives. And that's where relationships and collaborations begin, right?
Yes.
And hello, Anand. So glad to see you. I believe you're a new friend. Do you know Anand?
That name is very, very familiar. I think Anand is connected into me through India. Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Okay,
Yeah.
I just know that you invited people, so I want to make sure that we see them all. All right. And here is Nicole 𝙈𝙤𝙣𝙙. Nicole is a publisher, Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing, of which I am fortunate to consult with her as a line editor. And we're working on some really exciting books that are going to be published in the next few months. In fact, if you want to write a chapter and leave your legacy and have it ready by Thanksgiving, I did this because my grandkids aren't super interested in what I'm doing. They're very interested in their lives. And I wasn't interested in my grandparents' lives, but I want to write it all down. So one day when I'm gone, they'll go, oh, Nana did this. Oh, Nana did this. Gee, I wish I'd asked her more questions. So just reach out to Nicole if you want to write a chapter in that. It's phenomenal, the idea. All right. So now we can begin. I haven't shown all the comments. More people will be coming in. I'll keep an eye out on the comments. Thank you for being here. And now I just want to tell you a little bit. Let's bring this up here. Let me see what I've got here. Yes. I want to kind of introduce you to Charles. And so I'm going to bring this up here. And so the first thing you want to know about Charles, we're going to be talking about landmark education, which is a transformational technology. Now, Charles took his family from Canada, where he was managing Landmark Education's, their office there, or their center, their learning center there. And he got an opportunity and took his whole family to China, to Hong Kong. So Charles, what are we looking at here? Please share with us.
So first of all, when it was the whole family, it was my wife and I. And actually, I met my wife after I had been in Hong Kong for about a year.
Okay.
She going to the business school in Vancouver. I went to the year after the Capilano University in the same Asian management program that I did. And so Tess came to Hong Kong, and now 29 years later, 28 years Tess, we have this amazing family. So what we're looking at, what we're looking at on the left, the top of the Ritz-Carlton, where we went for a significant birthday celebration of mine.
Ooh.
Yes.
Significant, that must have been 40.
I'm pretty close to 40, yeah.
I thought it was.
And there was a while before the latest building was built in Dubai that the ICC claimed being the highest building in the world, and the Ritz-Carlton had a restaurant at the top, so we went there for my 60th. And then on the right-hand side...
Oops, sorry.
No problem.
Oh my goodness. Hang on. I'm just trying to... Well, we really need both of us. There we go. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, on the right-hand side.
So on the right-hand side, that's me, obviously, in the orange hat.
Yes.
In the middle is my wife, Tess. And in the long sleeve shirt is Sebastian. He's our eldest. And then standing in the background are the triplets from left to right, Kara, Sela, and Jasper. Now, what's unique about this picture is it's taken at a place called the Monster Building in Hong Kong, and it attracts photographers from all over the world and Instagrammers from all over the world, because at dawn and dusk, the way the light falls into the building or around the building creates some really extraordinary lighting effects. And with the latest cameras, you can get some very natural, no filter pictures.
This one, right?
That's the one with all the buildings in the back, kind of type, the one where we're kneeling down. So
Charles, I just have to ask you, how easy and breezy was it having 3 babies at once?
Well, in our case, the triplets were born 3.5 months premature. I should have sent you a picture of them in the hospital. They were my wife and I lived through a 3.5 month NICU nightmare.
Wow.
But they are miracles. I mean, Kara's on the left, the one in the white shirt in the back row. She was about 700 grams when she was born. Less than a pound.
Oh my goodness, 700 grams? What is that in pounds for the ignorant?
3/4 of a pound. Yeah, 26 weeks gestation. And there was a point during the journey when she got extremely sick with a hospital-acquired illness called aspergillosis, which is when the lungs get covered up with moss and stuff like that. And the doctors were telling me one day that she was going to die, and they were mentally preparing me to pull the plug on it.
We're having a bit of a hard time hearing you.
Is that better?
We can hear you, just maybe you could slow down just a little bit.
Okay.
There we go.
So Kara's got quite sick about 3 or 4 weeks into that experience. And the doctors were preparing us for the fact that she was going to die. And my wife had to leave the room, and we left the hospital that night. And we went back the next night, And during the day, my wife told me, well, there's all these developments. They've stopped giving me the drugs and, that would have cured her, et cetera, et cetera. And I went back into the hospital that night, 24 hours later, and I said, okay, let me know what's going on. And he said, Karis is getting better. And I started asking all the questions. What's the science behind why she's getting better? And the doctor just put his hand up and said, Mr. Caldwell, stop, 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 stop. I am unable to clinically explain why your daughter's getting better. And I said, I'll take it.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Wow.
I know that, boy, this is certainly a miracle. And, let me tell you a little bit about Charles, if you didn't read about this. So he's been there almost 30 years, and he is an award-winning HR director for a number of organizations in Southeast Asia. Now, he began in Landmark in the early to mid 90s, which is its transformational technology. And I mentioned to you that it evolved from Werner Erhardt's 𝙈𝙤𝙩𝙯. So he actually has served all the roles in those programs and is extremely well versed. And let me just tell you how excited I was to meet you, Charles. Right?
Thank you.
Yes, because the thing about different technologies is they have their own words, vernacular, if you will. And there's a few with Landmark that I've never forgotten. Now, look, I took this in 96 the first time, this particular technology. And then I did, and it changed my life. It opened my eyes in a way that they have never been opened before. It's like I'm a pretty well know-it-all kind of girl, but boy, this was just way out of anything I had thought about before. And then when my marriage broke up after 30 years, in the early 2000s, I went and did it again. I did the whole program because I was sick of the pity parties. I was sick of, losing the marriage. I didn't want it to happen that way. But finally, I got tired of my own miserable company. Right. And I said, what can I do? Right. And I knew what to do. So I went through all the program, learned coaching and everything. And I just have to tell you, Charles, it's such a joy to have you here. Now,
Well, it's a joy to be here.
Thank you.
And just for a quick clarification, I just want to clarify, I did not lead the Landmark Forum or the advanced course or the community.
Thank you.
Course. So, but I led all the seminars and the SCLP.
He led all but one or two, right? That was, let's put it that the Landmark Forum was one. And did you lead the advanced?
Didn't lead the advanced course, and I didn't lead the communication course. But all
you
the seminars,
did self-expression and leadership.
You did
all the seminars.
I led the seminars, and I led the weekend SELP and the weekend IL as well.
And SELP was a self-expression and leadership course. Now, when he says seminars, the one thing that we were talking about, I think that the most brilliant part, and this started back in the 60s, maybe before, the one thing that's really brilliant about this program that I learned from was that while you would go for a couple of days to ingest and infuse these new ways of thinking, if you will, that you hadn't ever heard before, right? What they did is they scheduled all year round 12-week courses or seminars so that every week you went and you got to practice what you learned, right? And that's what I did for 17 years with my program. They were 12 weeks so that you not only learned, but you were able to practice. And that's what I'm doing here, Charles, with Think and Grow Rich. I just keep rotating the 12 weeks with a different focus. And I'm not saying the same thing because I know it by heart. So it means that as people grow in awareness of their infinite potential, at different points, they're ready to hear these things. They might be confusing one week, and the next week you go, oh, I get it. Right? So this repetition is so important. So let me say hello to our new people who are here, and then we'll get right into the concepts. Okay, so we have, hello, Tim. I think we are new friends. You're in Mississippi.
Yeah, so Tim is a long time friend of mine. In fact, the company, I'm going to talk about the company that I ran BC Yachts services in a couple of minutes.
Is
And
this the
Tim,
gentleman you mentioned to me from?
no,
Oh,
no.
this is another one.
Tim was one of the key people on the team, and he and I have kept in touch ever since. A very dear friend of mine in Mississauga, on Toronto, who's also visited me in Hong Kong. It's time to come back to him.
So you were friends when you were with Landmark. That's how you met. So, this is great.
No,
So
no, we met before Landmark when
Oh.
he was on the team when I was running my company.
Oh, got it. Okay. Forgive me for not being clear and
No,
making assumptions. And actually, that's one of the things we're going to look at today.
that's right.
So thank you for being here, Tim. So good to know you. And here's Elizabeth 𝙈𝙗𝙗. She's been on this show with interactive self-hypnosis. She'll be coming back and we'll do Silva mind control in a few weeks. And she's also, so she's been on here for 2 weeks already. And Elizabeth lives up in Rhode Island. She's a multi author. She's got several books. And she's a registered nurse and a certified hypnotherapist. So thank you, Elizabeth, for being here. She's done my work with me. And so because of her background, it really makes me feel confident that the study that she does with me aligned with everything she knows. So it was kind of a way of confirming, yes, I'm on the right track, right? Because when you have an expert in hypnosis, and she's also an NLP practitioner. So thanks, Elizabeth, for being here. And Linda, good morning, Linda. So glad that you're here. Linda is a chef, and I believe she comes from Italy, or Italian is her favorite food. You'll have to correct me. Here's Jason forehand. By the way, Linda, thank you for being here. It's always wonderful seeing your beautiful face. Now, Charles, you want to get to know Jason forehand. Among all of these people, Jason has a nonprofit. And each week when I put out our carousel of lives, consistent every week lives that are here on LinkedIn, we honor several nonprofits so that people, if they are in the mood to donate or become a part of something, you got to give to receive. So if you haven't been giving a lot, you don't know how to, you actually can check out Jason. He has TK Kitchen. He's been in Nicaragua teaching children how to cook. And he's got a lot of interesting things. So Jason, thank you for being here. And I met Jason through Nicole on Guy Galindo. So we're all friends. So I really want you to get to know everybody that's here. And we also have Charito Yamar. She is in the Philippines. So it's 10:30 at night there. And
yes, it is.
It is. And she rarely, so let me just say, this is such an honor for you to be here, Charito, because I know you go to bed early. So it speaks loudly to me. So thank you, my friend. We always have such good conversations. And here is Lisa Fevick. Lisa is a registered dietitian who focuses on the menopause decades. What are the right foods that you would eat to allay the over 100 illnesses or diseases or disruptions that occur with those years in menopause? But the best part is the foods that she suggests to alleviate those symptoms are good for all of us. So she has a show on hiatus every other Tuesday afternoon live with a panel focusing on this subject, which is so important. How are we doing on time? Good. Okay. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. And there's Dr. Marcia. I start Tuesdays with Dr. Marcia at 8 o'clock. And she is a Christian leadership coach that embraces all viewpoints. So she's not attached to only what's in the New Testament. She's wide open to hear different ways of articulating the same things, because everything in the New Testament has been written for 5,000 years in different places. So this is why I especially like her 8 a.m. Eastern live. She always is filled with good information. So Charles, I don't know, it's 8 p.m. for you.
I have to get on that because one might say that I'm a Christian leadership coach as well.
Okay. And, as a Jewish woman, I am very careful because I don't want to be told that this is no matter how much you love Christianity, I don't want it to be all about that. I want it to be about inspiring me to think differently. And Dr. Marcia is so secure and authentic in her presence that she never does that. She will refer now and then to different, when she makes a point in leadership, I love that she will put, what verse and what chapter it refers to. This is important if this is part of it, what you want to learn. So good, that's good. You just have to get to know her. She's in Trinidad. So is
yeah,
Lisa.
And I'm quite interested in interfaith dialogue, which is a conversation for another day.
Awesome. It is. Oh, excellent.
So and 𝙈𝙤𝙣𝙙 has just joined us. Derek was on the Landmark team when I was in my first year on staff in Toronto. And it's great to see you, Derek. And I just invited him this afternoon, and he responded. Yeah. So thank you, Derek, for being here.
And so is that New Brunswick that I'm seeing in?
That's New Brunswick, I believe so. Yeah, Bay of Fundy, beautiful part of Canada.
Thank you, Derek. I hope you enjoy this very much. I'm a 96er. That was my first forum. And then in 2002 or 3, I did the whole shebang. So I think you'll enjoy this conversation. And we really appreciate your being here. Now, let me just catch up here because we're going to get right into the distinctions. I just don't want to miss anybody. We got lots of people saying hello. And thank you so much for being here. Just want to make sure that you get how much I appreciate your being here. Hello, OG. Thank you for being here. I haven't seen you in a while. Very happy to see you. Okay. Good deal. Thank you, Charles. Now, shall we get into, we're right at 10:29. I told you this would work out this way. So now what we're going to do, now look, Charles will come back because we're just going to scratch the surface with 3, there you go. With 3 concepts. I want to say concepts, ways of looking at things that will be new to you. Oh, Derek says 1986. Ooh.
That's when he first participated. I think he participated before me, and then
That's 10 years before me, Derek.
Yeah.
So you've been transformed much longer than we have.
Yes, he has.
Oh yeah, touch. Okay. So let me get to the right thing here and bring this back up. And here we go. Now, I don't know how to make you bigger. There's a way to do this, and I'll figure it out. But so,
like the way we are, I think we're
okay. You think we're good? Okay. So,
sure, we're good.
Okay, good. So when you opt in, I'll just tell you when I first opted in to Landmark to take the weekend forum, 2.5 days, Saturday, Sunday, and a Tuesday evening. Mm-hmm. And it was 96 and I'm in the South. Mm-hmm. So the first thing everybody said, oh, watch out, it's a cult. Mm-hmm. If they start talking about Baptists and they start talking about religion, because we're in the South, we're in the Bible Belt. So that is, 50 years or 25, 30 years ago, it was prevalent. It still is, but it was even more so. And we didn't have the internet to the extent we do, so that we don't have the variety of cultures, right? Which is kind of a mishmash. Anyway, as I'm driving from my home to Greensboro, which is a couple of hour ride, I remember saying to myself, and I don't know why, and was this really myself or was this the universe? Because I had heard so much about cult and Christianity and beware and all this business. People were afraid. They were afraid for me, I guess. But I was excited about it. I was so thrilled. On the way there, I said to myself, Leslie, if one thing happens that has you uncomfortable, that it's about religion, or it feels it isn't aligned and you feel uncomfortable, I don't care that you spent $400. Walk out. I gave myself permission. Now, by doing that, by choosing it exactly as it was and wasn't going to be, I never heard a thing. However, Charles, if I hadn't done that, I don't think I would be really present. I would be listening for what word, and you know what I mean, out of that fear. So somehow I knew that I had the power to step away anytime if I felt like I needed to, and I never felt like it. Never, never did I feel that way. And let me just put this up here really quickly. Oh, look who's here. Yay. Sean Michael is on at noon today with Monday Mind Shift.
And
He is,
also NKPT is calling in from India.
you know, NK?
I do know NK, yeah.
Well, now well, let me go back here to Sean. Sean is great. He loves this work, always has fabulous comments. Thank you, Sean, because I know you have yours at noon. Now, NK has been here without you.
Mm-hmm.
This is not his first time, and I don't really know him. But so tell us about him. You know him from where?
Well, I know him virtually because he is quite faithful about attending Horizon X. And I've also seen him, I think he's also joined into some of Donald's sessions and your sessions as well.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you, NK, for being here. We're so happy to see you. And one quick thing here. Yes, the repeat guest, it allows you to process the overview and get to know the person a little bit. Then they're going to come back and you will be able to ask better questions. I learned that, Meryl, and also Charles. I learned that because when I first hear something, a lot of time I'm confused. And I don't take any action when I'm confused. But when I hear it again, it seems like in little bits out of confusion comes clarity. And it's when I get the concept that I can use it and practice it. And I think that is what's so powerful. And look here, Sharon Rose likes that. Okay, good. So in that case, we can certainly talk about that. I was on Dr. Marcia's live Tuesday. We were talking about fear, but just amazing. There's a lot of wonderful shows here. Oh, and here we go. Here's Maria Simonetti. Hello, Maria. So good to see you back here on LinkedIn. All right. So happy to be here. And let's get into this, shall we? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is your show, right? And I'll be needling you with questions. Okay. So you ready, everybody? Here we go. This is the first thing we're going to learn, which is the invisible blind spots that limit our thinking, actions, and possibilities. So Charles, take it away. What are we looking at in the graphic image? How should we? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No problem. What I wanted to emphasize for people, to let them know that the conversation that happens within Landmark about yourself is what you lives in what you don't know that you don't know. And on this graph in front of us, you can see there's a small piece of the pie, which is what you know that you know, against everything you can know about yourself or everything you can know in the universe. And one could argue that there's another piece of the pie, which is what you know that you don't know. You might know that you don't know how to play the guitar, but you want to learn how to play the guitar, so you go take guitar lessons and learn to play the guitar. And a lot of people tend to look for incremental results in their life. They might do development programs. They might read books and know that they know what they know that they know increases over time. And it's possible people might have breakthroughs, but typically when people take that approach, they would have an incremental increase in results, predictable increase in results, maybe unpredictable. But the conversations about what you don't know that you don't know is what the Landmark is all about. It's the invisible blind spots that limit the way that you're thinking, limits your actions, limits things that are possible in your life. And unlike gaps in knowledge, which books will give you, they're known unknowns. What you don't know that you don't know are the assumptions or the biases, and they're the frameworks that you're unaware are shaping your reality. And why that matters is because a lot of times people try to solve problems within their current understanding by looking at what they know that they know. And this is why, just diversity conversations, going out and talking to different people about different issues you have, often people can provide solutions to your whatever issue you're dealing with. But in Landmark, it's specifically looking at how breakthroughs happen from confronting boundaries. And the whole conversation lives in that. So it's sometimes said that a fish is to the water, that air is to the bird, that man or humans are to themselves. Humans can't really see themselves. So you can't discover what you don't know by looking harder at what you do not know. And what the landmark form allows you to do is to step outside of yourself, presents you with models to step outside of yourself and see yourself differently. And that creates a really, really powerful shift.
So this is great. Let me ask you a question here. So then the purpose of continuing to learn about the things that you didn't know, you do get to expand what we know that we know. So that piece of pie can get larger, yes?
Yes, it can.
And that's the idea. Now, the other thing is really, it sounds to me that when you're looking at this objectively, is that a fair assumption? What you're saying is not to look at it emotionally or making it right or wrong or railing against it because it's unclear. It's more about being the observer of ourself. Would that be a fair assumption?
To a degree, I think so. I think that the models allow you to be an observer of yourself. And through that process, a lot of stuff's going to come up. You might get emotional, you might get confronted, and that sort of thing. But generally, the models, and this is the role of the leader, and the whole way the environment is set up is to create the optimum conditions for you to be able to be an observer of yourself.
Yes, and it is confronting. Well, because you're starting. The other thing I want to say about this particular piece is, for me, knowing how the universal laws work, okay, which are written in all of our religious texts, philosophical texts, they're the Hermetic principles. They've been around forever. What I look at those as, that helps me be more objective, because our universe, those universal laws, are really kind of paved the way for us, and we don't have to worry as much as we do, because a lot of things are already taken care of for us. And so that has expanded that particular piece of pie for me, and it allows me to be more open. But now, what do you do, for example, I'm thinking of myself when I first did the Landmark Forum and I first learned this. I love this. But the whole idea of, well, you don't know what you don't know seemed insane to me, right? I couldn't wrap my arms around it. Another one that couldn't wrap my arms around was this statement that stayed with me for 30 years. We're looking for the presence, let's see, what is missing, the presence of which would make a difference. That is a phrase that the leaders always use, and it just seems so crazy to me. We're looking for what's missing. How do you know what's missing if you don't know it? Do you have a response for that?
Well, one of the powers of the community in having a group of people engaged in the conversation is that you see yourselves in others. So that's one of the ways you see yourself in others. That's one of the ways that you become the fish out of water and the air and the bird out of the air and the human out of themselves. You sit there and you listen to other people applying models to themselves. They might have their heels dug in, they might be getting emotional. And meanwhile, you're a fairly neutral observer until you realize, actually, this person sharing is a mirror for myself. And that can often reveal what's missing for somebody, the presence of which would make a difference. That's actually a distinction.
I know, I got it. There's all these, I love these distinctions. But look, it's been, 30 years, and I'm still using and remembering and sharing this. This isn't one of the ones you reminded me, but this is the very first. This is the very first thing, which I love it, and I drew the picture. I was very proud of myself to kind of remember how that worked. So thank you.
If I can jump in here and just add something in, because I was reflecting on our conversation. The conversation will go to work on you. One of the things that we used to say to people is, look after your well-being, And one thing that Landmark does a lot is it invests a lot of time in training its leaders in well-being and watching out for people that might have any kind of well-being issue, physical or emotional or mental or even financial well-being. And so as I was reflecting on that, it would just, it was one of the things I used to say to people, particularly if we'd had a big breakthrough in a seminar or in the SELP or in the ILP, because some of the distinctions are meaty distinctions. And if people had big breakthroughs, I would say, look after your well-being, because the conversation will go to work on you. And that's what's happened. That was my time in Landmark has made a difference for my entire life, a very positive difference. And the conversation continues to go to work on me. Even now, as we're talking about it, we're bringing it to life and seeing new things that we didn't see before.
Yes, yes. I want you to, we've got a little bit of time, this acknowledgement piece. I hope I don't embarrass you, but maybe I will. So I want you to tell us about the story about the person that recently reached out to you that you first met in 1998. Would you tell us about that beautiful thing that just happened? Would you mind?
Sure. Do you want to take us off screen while I quickly tell that story? Yeah, there we go. Great. Yeah, absolutely happy to do that. So the story that Leslie's referring to is something that just happened to me in the last 30 or 45 days. So I came to Asia in 1996. I experienced the handover of Hong Kong from British Britain to China. And I worked for a training company for 18 months. And at the end of that 18 months, I jumped over and worked for Rockwell. And I spent 5 or 6 years at Rockwell. Rockwell's a great company. And my career did well there. I was the regional training manager all the way through the currency crisis, traveled all over the region, and then I became the HR director for the last 4 or 5 years I was there. While I was traveling around the region during the currency crisis, I was one of the few people able to travel because we had a training program to help people deal with the currency crisis. But I was in India, and the managing director and I were able to have a lot of really interesting philosophical conversations about life. I started sharing with him about the forum. And he said, and one of the reasons I did that is because I knew that in India, the conversation was alive and that they had big centers in India. So access to the Landmark Forum would be very, very easy for people. And so I encouraged him, listen, if people want to do the program, encourage them to do it. And I think we had a conversation about paying for the tuition. And I said, well, pay for part of it, but don't pay for all of it, because people got to still have a bit of a foot in the door. And so he did have people do the forum. It was very, very, very powerful, really was huge and beneficial for the team and helped them sharpen their thinking in so many positive ways. What I didn't realize was what happened next. So that was 1998, 1997, 1998. So I got an email, a message on LinkedIn in June, roughly June, or maybe the beginning of July, a month ago of this year, just within 45 days ago, of an individual who did the Landmark Forum back in 1998 and continued to participate in Landmark's work. And just in the last 2 months, he had completed the communication course, I think the second one, communication course number 2. And he sent me a message thanking me for taking a stand for Landmark way back in 1998, getting Landmark into Rockwell in India. And then he shared with me the impact that it had. I had no idea that so many people had gone on to do it and that they continued to support people to do the program and all these community events through the SELP that had spawned up. And I was just blown away. It was really, really wonderful. So I don't think that individual, I haven't seen him in the comments. If you are listening, thank you so much. I really acknowledge you for thanking me, because it just really made a difference for me to hear that message. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. It does. Thank you for sharing that. And let me just greet a couple of people that have slipped in here that I missed. This is an amazing man who's in Canada, who works in the HVAC world. Hi, Donald. And Donald is a wonderful supporter. I don't know him personally. I've never met him, but I know him, that he is very much a kind human being. And also, if I have any problems with HVAC, I know who to call. Right. Although he can't come down here, right? But he could certainly direct me to a YouTube station to learn. And let me just introduce our wonderful Stanley Green. Stanley has been here. He will be coming back. He has a program, Charles, called Power Thinking Corp.
I
Okay,
heard him a
great.
couple of weeks ago.
Okay, excellent. So Stanley has been here and he's going to be coming back. So the way this program works, and it seems to be fleshing out, is we get to know you a little bit more and some basic concepts. And then when you come back, we've had time to process, to ask questions. That, I think, is what's so great about this seminar, because these things, the questions that you ask right away are kind of, you're naive. You don't even know what you're asking. But after you've been in engaged with this conversation, what happens is you start coming up with questions that you wouldn't have the first day. So it's really great that you're able to do this, because I know I've invited you to come back, and we'll have you back as much as we can. Now, not to forget that Charles is an executive coach and he works in HR. He's not doing Landmark now, but as he said, it's been with him for 30 years. It's been with me for 30 years.
And just so people know also, Leslie,
Yes.
The way Landmark is structured, there are organizations out there, consulting companies, that are licensed to use Landmark's concepts in companies. And
That's right.
2 of those companies I have brought into, I think, every single organization that I've worked in while I've been in Hong Kong, starting with Rockwell, and then Juniper, Citrix, and then the latest education institution. They came in and did work with our senior executives, and we made a very positive impact.
Okay, you're getting a little fuzzy, your audio.
Okay.
It's okay. Stanley, thanks for being here. And by the way, this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. live, find Stanley's event, because he does this by phone, but he's bringing back power thinking, I'm hoping, intending, visualizing, to LinkedIn Live. And I go every week, every Wednesday morning at 7:30 to 8. I'm listening about power thinking. And this is another way of looking at all of this, not dissimilar than what you know, but expanding the foundation of understanding ourselves. So thank you for being here, Stanley. And here's Leah Garcia. Now you want to get to know her. She, every Wednesday at 1 p.m., she does Wealthy Wednesday. And she has a thing called the Wall of Wealth, Charles. So though for me, who is older, it's not the same as preparing to retire as when you first get married, as when you are retired. So what I really love about her program, which is called the Wall of Wealth, it's built in modules. So you only invest in the things that make sense for you where you are in your journey throughout your life. So love Leah. She's amazing, and so glad that she's here. Double checking here that I haven't missed anybody else, because I saw that I had missed Donald, who is just a wonderful support. Now, here's something that Sean said. We've got a minute for this. As I've heard it, what you don't know, you don't know. What you know that you don't know, what you know that you know, and what you don't know that you know. Okay, so what this is for me is incompetent. Let's see, what is that?
Incompetent competence.
That's right. So you're let's see, it starts off with your incompetent. Consciously. Okay, hang on. This is it. Thank you. You're unconsciously incompetent when you don't know diddly squat, and you know that you don't know that diddly squat. Then when you begin to learn a little bit about diddly squat, then you become consciously incompetent. Now you're aware that you're incompetent. Before you were incompetent, you didn't know anything. Now you've learned a little bit, So now you're consciously, yet still incompetent. Then you learn more and you become more of an expert. Then you become consciously competent. I know my stuff and I'm aware I know my stuff. Then we have unconsciously competent. This is when you can go before any group of people, any industry, and modify on the fly your examples to be relevant to that audience. So that is, you know your stuff so well that you are not telling HVAC jokes to a bunch of doctors, but it's the same, not some jokes, example. You modify the example to fit the context. And then I added another one.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, I think it's context competence.
Okay.
That is when you actually can revise your work. So that's really great, Sean. Thank you for bringing that up, because that allowed me to work through that. You see how my mind works? It took me, right? And plus,
and the pie that we looked at earlier is sometimes represented as a matrix. And there's another model out there called the Johari window. And the fourth box of the Johari window is what you don't know about yourself, but other people do know about yourself.
Now, I've heard
so
that
would
word.
Be for another conversation.
Yes, because I've heard of the Johari window and I'm clueless. Okay, let's go on to the second one, because, oh my God, it's getting late. Okay, and I want to go on here. Okay, so this is the second one, which is unconscious filters, assumptions and biases. The unconscious filters through which we hear others distorts communication. Now, this is a picture of Charles, and he told me a wonderful story of when he started a business with a boat, right? Just working. So tell us that story. And then now you're on Canada Business. And here it says Charles Caldwell's, and I can't read it, it's too small, but this was you. So tell us how this particular concept was basic to your beginning as a teenager with a boat and a very small business. And then it went on. Can you share that with us, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that we talk to people about, even before they get into the forum, when they're learning about the forum and considering doing it, are all the unconscious filters that we have running in our head, and they would live in what we don't know that we don't know. And the filters, typically, how the filters show up is how we listen to people. So we listen to people through filters, through assumptions and biases that we have about the world. We typically don't know what those assumptions and biases are, and they distort communication. So
tell us about how this, I remember you telling me the story about
that's
the
where
boat.
I'm going. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So how this showed up for me was that when I started my company, BC Yachts, which was the name of the company there, which is a little bit blurred out, but right hand.
Okay.
I was 16 years old, and it was myself and a couple of other people. And for the first 3 or 4 years of that company's life, we were just running around mainly Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, sometimes Georgian Bay, cleaning, repairing boats. And then as the company as I grew and I started to hire employees each summer, because it was seasonal for a while, it was year round for a while. But as I was hiring people, we started to grow, we started to add on services. And for example, we got to a point where the year before this magazine cover, where we started offering scuba diving services. So we were doing underwater salvage work. People would drop their Rolex or an important part of the boat overboard, and we would go down to rescue it. We'd clean racing boats before races and that sort of thing. Now, I started that company when I was 16, and I felt that I needed to justify being so young. I had a credibility gap. I had to convince people that I was a responsible 16-year-old, that if they gave me the keys to their boat, that I was going to look after their boat properly, I was going to clean it properly, and they could trust me to look after that boat. And then, there was because I was so young, we were charging $3 Canadian an hour at the time, which was 10 cents below minimum wage or something like that. So that conversation of, I'm only 16 years old, this is just a junior business, this is just a little business, I can't justify high prices, got going inside my head, and it was a filter. that was going. It was an assumption. It was a bias that I had.
Mhm.
And even when I was on the front cover of Canadian Business Magazine, I was still struggling with that kind of bias and that kind of filter. And it suppressed despite what the magazine says, it suppressed the tangible success of the business. So I then go into Landmark, and out of the process of working this out in Landmark, I realized that I've got this filter inside my head that is suppressing the price of my business. And I remember a couple of weeks after doing the Landmark Forum, I was on the phone talking to a customer. It was a brand new customer, and he was asking me for a quote. And as I gave him the price of the quote on the phone crackled. And there was about a 10 or 15-second period where he couldn't hear me very properly. And he said, "Oh, Charles, but I couldn't hear you. You broke up there. I couldn't hear you. What did you say? What did you say?" And while that crackling was happening, in the back of my head, I heard that filter at work. I heard that little whisper in the back of my head saying, "Oh, you're too young. You've got to justify. You're only 60 years old." I'm thinking to myself, I'm not 60 years old. I founded the company in 1979. It's now 1990. What am I talking about? And I tripled the price right there on the spot. And when he said to me, "What was the price again, Charles?" I gave him a price that was 3 times higher. And he said, "That sounds great. How fast can you get that job done?" And I hung up the phone, and I just couldn't believe it. And I turned to my assistant GM, if Tim's listening, that was Steve at the time. And I said, "This just happened," because Steve had also done the forum. And he said, "Yeah, we've been telling you all that all along." And it was shocking to me to catch that narrative in motion and be able to interrupt it. And that's not an incremental increase. That's a breakthrough result.
Yes, yes. And we're really close on time. So people, I hope you'll stay an extra 5 or 6 minutes because I really want to move on to the next thing. And so I've totally messed up on the hour, but stay with me and let me just say hello really quickly to Tracy. Hi, Tracy. So glad you're here. And also there's someone here, 𝙈𝙬𝙉𝙗. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, excuse me. Okay, let's do this one. And I'm going to go on mute because I have to cough, but take it away, Charles.
Okay. So one of the things that we look at is how there are things that happen in our lives. Facts happen, incidents happen in our lives, and those incidents are based on facts and reality. Sometimes one of the ways of looking at it, and I would even use this in HR and coaching today, is I would say to people, okay, if you're a fly in the wall, what would that fly say happened? Okay, so person A was talking to person B, and that's what happened. There was words that went back and forth and noise that went back and forth. But then as humans, we come up with the whole story and the whole narrative that we have about that situation. And what typically tends to happen is that the facts and the reality starts to collapse in with the story and the narrative. And then people relate to the collapsing part as reality. So it's a little bit of fact and it's a little bit of narrative. And that little bit of each one is what people relate to as reality. And there might be any number of reasons why people won't actually kind of speak straight. They might have certain biases that they're bringing to the conversation, certain assumptions, like the assumption I had about having to justify lower prices in my business. It could be any number of things, but this is just kind of very, very quickly.
Yeah.
The two sides collapse in together, and then people relate to that little bit in the middle as reality. It just doesn't quite make sense, and that you get a big breakdown in people's lives.
And actually, this is how something can happen, and 3 different people are sure that the way they saw it was right because they're operating from that center section where for them the collapsing together is what they think is a fact, and they'll dig their heels in to insist that they're correct, but someone else sees it completely differently. Is that fair assumption?
Yeah, that's fair. And then we add a lot of meaning onto that, and we get emotionally attached to it, and then the whole thing just continues to break down. And so in the Landmark Forum, these are one of the things that you can clear out all those cobwebs that are in the middle, and get a lot of clarity, and start training that muscle inside your head, which lasts over time, as we've seen today. You and I did the Landmark Forum a long time ago, and today it feels fresh in my mind.
Absolutely. Okay, this is great. Now, these are 3 things. There are so many, and I'd love to have you back. But one thing I want you to share with people is, what are you doing now? How could you, how could they work with you? Is there, is there something you'd like them to do other than let's follow and connect? Tell us about this picture before we close off today. And I want to thank everybody so much for being here. And I invite you to listen to at least the second half of this and any one of these, because the first half is the acknowledgement. But if you really want to get to the meat of it for this first one, then you would listen to the second half. So tell us just a little bit about this and what you're doing now, and how people, how they can work with you if they would
Sure.
like to. Please.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. When I left my company back in April, my HR team nominated me for an award, and that was a whole process that flattered me immensely that they wanted to do that, even though I was leaving the company. And then everything kind of went dark for a couple of months. I was traveling and resting and getting ready to do what's next, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the next thing I know, the phone rang and they invited me to come to a banquet. And I said, well, I think I'm traveling. And they said, well, we think you should try to change your travel plans. So there were three of us who were nominated for Most Inspiring Leader. And I was one of the recipients of one of those awards here in Hong Kong. So I was really flattered that my team nominated me for that, and it meant a lot to me. And it was a very special gesture from them, and a special evening when I went to receive the award. What I'm doing now is I'm building an executive and leadership coaching practice, and I also do HR consulting. I've been coaching for a long, long time. I mean, I think people should have figured that out, given the fact that my training in HR and in a whole bunch of different things started long before Landmark, but Landmark really sharpened the saw and gave me great distinctions. And since then, in the last 10 to 15 years, I've gone back out and refreshed all my coaching certifications with 𝙈𝙤𝙷𝙬 in Australia, which leads to ISF accreditation. I'm currently working on a doctorate of business administration. My area of research is comparing virtual versus in-person coaching and the effectiveness of that. And so I'm available to be a coach for people, leadership, life, or executive coach. I have a lot of experience in HR, and I'm also talking to different companies. And I have one company I'm already working with here in Hong Kong to provide some HR consulting for them. And I've also worked with a startup in Germany, providing consulting for them. And so that's what I'm doing, and definitely want to invite people to connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation. I have a weekly live called 𝙈𝙤𝙩𝙀. It's designed to be a thought leader. Right now, we're going through a season of AI. And I also invite people to consider doing the Landmark Forum. If it's something you really feel called to do, I encourage you to do that, because I would, before my kids were born, I would say it was in the top 10 events of my life. Now that my kids have been born and graduated, it may have dropped down a bit to the 12th or 15th, but it's definitely up there in one of the top, most impactful, formative events of my life. I got tremendous value out of it. It's paid off dividends in the long run. But the other thing I want to do is I want to thank you, Leslie, because your show here has not only inspired me, but it's inspired and it's empowered everyone around you. You can tell that by the comments and the people that come back. You have a unique ability to just look at things fresh and bring out the best in people. And for that, I'm truly grateful, and thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being here today. And I'm excited to have you back. I'm going to move you back into the studio with great gratitude, Charles, and to everyone listening. So thank you. And we will do the outro. Go into your week inspired. Think about these things, review them, and then connect with everyone, or at least follow everyone that's in this room. And we'll be back to comment and respond to your thoughtful comments. I hope I haven't missed anybody who came in. Thank you all for being here. Charles, thank you. I'll move you back into the studio. And we will play this one last thing here. Let me see if I can get it to where it belongs. And here we go. Have a great week.